Why are estate agents still shit at business generation? That's fruity language, mate, if you don't mind me saying. Today I'm joined by the wonderful Dan Marsden. Bit of a commentator, a bit left field, a bit spiky with his comments. Keeps me on my toes. Dan, why are agents so awful at business generation? Talk to me.
We talked about this 5 years ago,
Oh,
and
it was old news then.
nothing's changed. And I look, people have heard the whole Rightmove thing, and it's very boring to go onto go on Facebook groups, moaning about Rightmove, moaning about the portals, moaning about the costs. And look, I've been in all I've done my whole career is new business generation. That's what I've done. And I have to sharpen my axe every day to find different ways to get in front of the people I want to talk to. And I don't have a right move in what I do. I have to go out and I have to generate conversations. It's a very different skill to just slapping what I do on a big portal like Rightmove. And I will say at this point, Chris, I think Rightmove is a great thing. And if you're using Rightmove and you're spending 40 grand a year, but you're doing £500,000 in your office, amazing.
I find it fascinating that a lot of estate agents see the portals as business generation tools, when in reality, its job is to put properties in front of punters.
Correct. Yeah, it's not a business generation tool. It's
They actually put it under marketing, as in marketing themselves to get more business.
It's loading a shotgun. That's all it is. I mean, Rightmove, you're loading a shotgun. You press the trigger. It's if you've done everything right and God forbid, you've priced the property right, it will sell. Simple as that. If you don't and you don't get those things right, fundamentally it's driven by price. All the other things are baubles, and there are people out there that do this very, very well. They take great photography. They're doing great video content. They can actually write. They're not just using the same old description. They're actually doing something. And there are some great examples out there of agents doing it right. And I have to say, and I was talking with the guys this morning, if you switch Rightmove, if you switch all the portals off tomorrow and you go back to your early 90s where people actually,
Hot boxes.
Hot boxes.
Oh.
We love a hot box. And you have to go back to basics. You are still spending money on mail outs. You are still spending money on your local newspaper. You are still spending money on all sorts of other things that are not as easy as Rightmove. Rightmove is very, very simple. It's made agents very lazy. We said this 5 years ago. It's still the case now. I think the game changer today is that, and when I talk about agents, it's really important. I'm not talking about every single agent in the land, because there are some amazing agents. And the reason I have such a dim view of the industry is because I've been very fortunate to work with some absolutely incredible agents who are masters of their craft. When you work with those sorts of people, you do take a dim view of the rest, because they make everybody else look very mediocre. Now, really importantly, you know this very well. Agents Together, obviously, you're one of the founders. I've got a mentee who I've been looking after since June last year. Started his business from scratch. He's a young guy. He's only in early 20s. He's absolutely smashing it. His pipeline's full. He's doing everything he's doing, and he's winning. And he's following a plan that we set out week one, where I said to him, if I can give you one single tip beyond learning how to do the whole marketing piece from people who really know what they're talking about, is to become an expert in your market. Become an expert in your market and you'll be fine.
And we all profess to be the local property expert. And I know that phrase is tinged with purple bricks, but put that aside, people want to deal with the local property expert. And in fact, if you look at the Property Academy survey, 36% of vendors out of 10,000 vendors, asked, chose their estate agent based on that agent's local property market knowledge. You look at their business Facebook, listing. It's just bloody wallpaper, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not. I spoke to my dad this morning over breakfast. And that's it. And I look. I think it's important to showcase what you're good at, and but I think for anybody to call themselves an expert, I mean, everybody who's in the industry knows that we work in an industry that's driven by death, debt, divorce. I don't think agents are experts in any of those three things. I don't think they know
They're
much
not
about.
even experts in talking about the property market.
No, and I don't think, if you ask most people to talk to you about the market in general, I think those that have been around. I mean, my eyes were opened massively when I worked for Simply Conveyancing, and I was seeing hundreds of agents, and you go and work with a brand. So can I name a brand?
Do what you like.
I'm going to name it just because it stands out. But there are a couple. If you look at somebody like Bourne Estate Agents in Surrey, look at their managers, proper experience. They've been in agency over 20 years. They know their markets inside out. I went to Hamptons, 34 branches of Hamptons across the home counties. You go and see their managers in there. They've been in those offices for a very long time. And you talk to them, not only do they know their numbers back to front, and I hate to say this, but lots of agents I saw didn't know their numbers, fundamentals. But when you meet somebody and you sit with a manager who talks to you about Winchester or who talks to you about Woking, and they do it with such fluency that I think, God, if I was selling my house, this is where I'd come. It's amazing. And it's so refreshing to talk to somebody who properly understands their backyard. They talk to you about specific roads without looking anything up, without doing anything else. And I think that's missing.
You see, I would say if an estate agent doesn't know what's happened to house prices in the last 1, 5, 10 years compared to the different areas and how different areas within your town have changed, then you're not an expert.
No, I agree. And I think that's the bit that's missing. And that's why I said to Owen in our first week, be an expert, get under and put him in touch with people who had the facts, the data. We talked about data, we talked about local knowledge, we talked about local businesses, we talked about, the education piece, everything. Be an expert in Barnsley. And if you can be Mr. Barnsley, people, because he's got that energy as well. And it's an energy
And
business.
the thing is, though, you've got this thing called social media, which actually allows you to post in local groups.
And we didn't have this, there's never been.
It's never been easier.
I was just about to say, it's never been easier to sell property in a good market.
Because the Rightmove puts it on a level playing field. It's not a case because you've got 2 pages as opposed to 10 pages.
Correct. And I think if you took Rightmove away, like I'm saying, what Rightmove have done is and look, I'm not going to talk about their customer service or their account handle, their nurture piece, because I'm not dealing with them, and I know that's well documented. It's like this, but it's not about that. The fact is, it is an amazing tool. It is cost effective if you're doing everything right and you're getting that market share. There's literally nothing.
Okay, so come back to the original question: business generation. What should they be doing? Talking about the local property market.
They should be talking. Look, I mean, I'm not here to blow smoke, Chris, but all the things you've been talking about for the last few years is exactly what it is. It's what they should be doing. They should be talking about. Owen is talking about. He's walking down streets. I remember ages ago, you were talking about walk down this street and talk about sales on this street. Go to a local butcher and have a chat with a butcher about what it's like to live in Barnsley. Go and do, be a part of a community. And I see, and again, not name dropping, some of the self-employed models. And we said 5 years ago, I'd be interested to see how that went because it was all quite new. EXP were just starting to come through, the exponential growth from them. And I see, and I'm connected with a lot of these agents on LinkedIn, and you see a lot of these success stories. And when you talk to them, you understand why, because the guys I know for a fact, because I spoke to a lot of them, the EXP, for example, there are other brands available, as you like to say, but let's take EXP. So lots of the agents, I spoke to probably 20 or 30 of those agents who were starting to win. And the ones that were winning have one thing in common. It was the social media piece. They were putting themselves on camera. They were getting uncomfortable with it. They were writing about their local market. They were understanding the numbers in that market, and they were doing video content on that. And it was very clear to me that those guys who were capping out, who are now icons, they've got all this stuff going. It is because they put the graft in. They've had to, because they're absolutely tied financially to their success. They haven't got anything to lean back on. There's no brand to catch them. There's no corporate to catch them. They eat what they kill. And when you're doing a job, and I've done it, you're out and you eat what you kill. When you're in that mindset, it's very different to rocking up in the office in the morning, having a coffee, having a chat, doing whatever. And then you're relying on the leads that are coming through. There's a very different piece to somebody who is out on their own, who has now built a successful business. And some of these people are now surrounded with small teams. And I love that. I love that because they've generated it. They've grown it themselves. And that when I talk about agents and my fairly disparaging sort of outlook on agency, I kind of there are massive exceptions to that, and people like that are huge exceptions. And that's what I mean. When you've worked with great agents, or you witness people doing great things and doing what they need to do to succeed, I absolutely tip my hat to those people, because I just think it's incredible and I love seeing success. And I've always said, sales is an energy business. And if you don't bring the energy to that process, you are never going to win. You're never going to win. You know, turning up on someone's sofa with a piece of paper from Rightmove Plus or Zoopla House Price, whatever it is you brought with you on a scrappy bit of paper, and you can't last 5 minutes on a conversation about your market, you're not the agent for me. If I walk into an office where it's quiet and all I can hear is the rattle of keyboards, you're not for me. I took my mate in an office on a beauty parade of agents last year, and I said the first tick in the box for me, and this is because he wanted me to come with him, is a noisy office. If we walk into an office and everyone's on the phone, massive tick in the box. Now, I saw hundreds of agents with Simply, and the number of offices that I walked into that were like morgues, it's just not good enough. And I think the general public see that. If they walk in and everyone looks up almost like,
Rabbits.
yeah, it's just, so a noisy office, a busy sales floor, and that's what it is, and that's what it should be, is amazing. So the business generation, we go back to core skills, and these are the skills that I never stop refining these. It's like sharpening an axe. You've got to do it every day. You have to learn, you have to be curious, you have to bring energy, you have to learn from people who know more about this stuff than you do. And that's my aim most of the time, is to talk to people who are way better at stuff than I am. And I learn new things. We've got the world of AI that I became obsessed with at the end of 2022. Writing better emails. I have a very high success rate on emails now, and it's taken me years to perfect it. I know how to cold call people because I've had to work at it. And I've been on countless webinars on technique for cold call. All this stuff, I'm 51 years old and I'm still learning every day. And it sounds like a cliche, every day is a school day. It is for me. And that's why I say, without any arrogance, I'm really bloody good at what I do, because I've a passion for learning. And I think that's missing, not just in the estate. I'm not just going to kick agents. In industry generally, I've freelanced for businesses and done new business stuff. People are typically very bad at writing emails. They're very bad on the telephone. They're very bad. And I'm going to name drop her because she's amazing. Claire Yates, who I know has been on recently, actually, isn't she? I love Claire. And I think, if people are investing in anything, they need to invest in their training and business generation and learning how to do this stuff with people that really understand it. Talking with the boys this morning about what they're doing, people might say, well, I can't afford to do these things. I can't afford to do video. And I've heard you say millions of times, just do it on your iPhone. Correct. You don't need it. I know there's a probate guy on TikTok, Jim, who has something like 650,000 followers. He walks his dog and he does videos about wills and probate. His diary is packed because he's walking his dog and he's answering questions on his iPhone. Why can't agents do that? Why can't an agent walk to the train station and do a video about what's happening? And I know this has been your message for a very long time, but people just don't seem to understand. It's not really, they're not getting the message that. And I would love it in an era where, let's say, all the portals go down for 3 months. It would be amazing to see how creative people then get, because they have to be, because the alternative is gloomy.
Well, again, come back. It's about business generation and the portals. Yes, if you put a listing on, there might be a property, someone sees it. Yeah, but it's like chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
If the right one doesn't come on, it's how are you getting the stuff that you've never got called to.
Yeah. And that's where you need to get creative. And I think, an agent said to me years ago, I think it was a guy in Hamptons actually, he said to me, I love a bad market because that's when the best agents rise to the top.
Right. I mean, absolutely scary that this number never changes, but 50% of sales, the homeowner's only been in the house 6 years and 18 weeks or less.
Wow.
Okay. And that number goes down to 6 years and 5 weeks and goes up 6 years and towards it, but it's always in that magical 6-year mark.
Yeah.
So, but only 1 in 8 people go back to the agent they bought their house off.
Yeah. And there's an absence of nurture there as well.
So it's nurture, there's your business generation, you've got you're sitting on data, and then you've got your new stuff. And again, it's all about getting people's attention.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about the one thing that everyone's obsessed about, which is house prices, property market knowledge, you're on a winner. Dan, thank you for your time today. Exceptional as always.
Absolute pleasure.